I just want to talk a little bit about one moment around the inauguration that has really, captured a lot of the attention of the American people, which is when Bishop Mariann Budde spoke directly to Donald Trump at a worship service in the National Cathedral. And her whole sermon had been about unity and how it's important to speak truth, to walk with one another, to be really to show up with one another if we really want unity for a country. And then for the last bit of it, she really spoke directly to Donald Trump and just said,
"In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families, some who fear for their lives. I ask you to have mercy, Mr. President, on those in our communities whose children fear that their parents will be taken away, and that you help those who are fleeing war zones and persecution in their own lands to find compassion and welcome here. Our God teaches us that we are to be merciful to the stranger, for we were all once strangers in this land."
What was so striking to me about that moment was kind of how shocked Trump looked as someone was actually preaching the gospel to him. He had been around so many sycophants that were talking about, how God had anointed him for this hour, that he maybe just didn't realize that there's a whole Christianity out there that actually is inviting a different kind of vision than the one he and his friends who are Christian nationalists, who are about power and about exerting power over others. And so I just want to take a moment and thank Bishop Budde, who's been on this show, who is, by the way, not a radical. And she, even when she was on the show, she was talking about, I'm not a radical. I'm just trying to say the thing that I believe is true. And so she was following her example of the gospel. And so when she said those things, she had every right to say those things. They were in, her church, and she was preaching the gospel. And I just, it's amazing to hear some of the comments, like that garbage, that political garbage that she was talking about. That was just straight up biblical. And she said it in a gentle way and in an invitational way, like let's walk together with our God, but let's be merciful to the people who are most vulnerable and scared in this moment. So I just want to say thank you to her, to make sure that people, I think that there's a whole group of people out there who maybe have never heard that kind of sermon. I grew up in that tradition, so that was very familiar to me, but there's a whole group of people who maybe, for whom that was not something that they had heard. And so I just want to thank Bishop Budde, and also to recognize that that was a really important moment, because what we saw is, like, in stark relief, the very different understandings of how faith can work in our democracy. And I just really think it's important that we are thankful for it, and also that it strengthens us, especially in a moment where so many people around Trump, and so many people who before maybe thought, oh, this guy might be dangerous for our democracy, but who are falling in line now, kissing the ring,